Hello, and welcome to episode 104 of the Book Wars Pod. I'm Miranda, here with Chris and Kristen. Today we are wrapping up Lords of the Sith by Paul S. Kemp. Oh, I really thought you were going to go for the rap air horn there.
No, I have to keep it. Fresh.
Keep us all on our toes.
Wouldn't want to overuse it.
I tried to add stuff to the soundboard today, but everything is very locked down because Disney. But don't worry, I will find a way to add things that I'm not supposed to add as sound drops to the soundboard.
I mean, you can just record us yelling
it's
Star Wars noises.
It's so true. That would be pretty good.
Like if we did a pew pew.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you could just add that in.
Thank you. That's great. Just do you want me to record you doing your rap air horn and then that can be its own drop, but instead of the sad trombone, it'll just be your rap air horn?
Yeah.
That would make me happy. Miranda, why don't you ask us what we're drinking since you brought us in and that's your job?
Hey, Kristen, what are you drinking?
I don't want to go first. Chris, what are you drinking?
Oh my God. Just really organic conversations happening on this episode of the Book Wars Pod.
As always.
That's what happens when we have unsupervised pod.
Yep.
That's true. Which is not our it's wholly not our fault. Kate was supposed to be on this episode but she is sleeping.
Which is a big mood.
Yep.
Yeah. She got home. She had late class today, and so she got home and was just fucking exhausted, and then tried to finish reading the book and fell asleep.
Yep, that'll happen.
That's the story of my life.
Yep. I'm drinking tequila. My usual tequila blanco that I have from Arete. Which my accent's terrible. We're just gonna roll with it. I was going to have scotch, but then I watched. Have you guys watched the Taco Chronicles on Netflix?
I really want to, but I have not yet.
I don't know what that means.
I explained it to you when I saw the thing for it.
It's a documentary about the history and culture around different kinds of tacos as told by the tacos.
Was I asleep?
Possibly.
Probably.
This was also a while ago.
This does not ring
this is not new.
any bells to me.
This is solidly 6 months old.
I also might have explained it to somebody who was not you and don't remember.
Thank you. I really it. I feel great that I mean this much to you and you remember each and every one of our conversations. But the fucked up thing is I could still have absolutely no recollection of this, and it could still have happened. And
I was gonna say we didn't
reason.
land on this definitively wasn't you.
I'm just an asshole.
But it's amazing and just really interesting and incredibly well done in how it showcases the culture inherent in the different styles of tacos that we have bastardized all of them. But
love tacos.
But also I watched 2 episodes tonight and really fucking wanted tacos and didn't have tacos, so I'm having tequila, which is the next best thing.
You hate to see it.
You really do. You really do.
I do love tacos. What are you drinking, Miranda?
I have a kombucha.
Tell us what's about the kombucha.
It is a Brew Doctor kombucha, which is a local.
Is that mine?
Yes. Sorry.
Fuck.
They have similar colors.
I know that, but read the front. Yours is the berry one. That was mine for tomorrow.
You can have the berry one.
I know. Thank you. I'm going to.
So.
Fuck me, right?
I'm a cool quarter to a third of the way through this and just noticed I was not drinking the same one because it's fruity vinegar water. Or yeast water.
Yeah,
both water.
All of those things, yes.
Yeah.
So this is...
contains multitudes.
It does.
Brew Doctor is a Portland company, yeah?
It is.
Portland local kombucha. This one is called Happiness. And it has rose petals and white tea listed under happiness.
It does.
Yeah, it's very not berry flavored.
If you read the ingredients, it tells you. Wait, hold on. Yeah. I thought that there was more info on the. Oh yeah, here. It has a blurb.
Oh, I can. Okay.
I'm it says stuff on there. I'm not fucking crazy.
Okay. stop and taste the roses. Rose City. There is beauty in its simplicity. White tea paired with rose petals give this crisp kombucha a soft floral finish.
Miranda took a weed gummy, which is why she has the giggles and can't read.
But
why didn't you?
You can.
Correct.
Why didn't you take
can
it
read high
recently?
better than I can. What?
Why didn't you
Yes?
take it recently so that we could like pinpoint the moment it hit you again?
Because she didn't drink this time, so it's
Ah,
more of
classic.
a soft. I know. That's.
I was gonna ask why you were
kombucha.
drinking kombucha instead of something alcoholic, but now I
Yep.
understand.
I had to pee earlier when I got home from work, the eye doctor.
Yep. The
I made a
work
huge
doctor
mistake last
eye.
night. We're recording this the day after the latest Democratic primary debate, and
Fuck that debate.
it was so fucking
Fuck
stupid.
all of those debates.
It's
actually.
awful. But I made the huge mistake of not taking a gummy until it started, so I didn't
Nope.
actually get high until halfway through,
Nope.
which means I had to sit through like an hour and a half of the fucking debate sober. Also, why are they 3 fucking hours?
Because there are 78 people on stage, and they all get 2 minutes of talking time.
None of them should be on the. There should be 4 people on the stage.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm drinking Fields of Green, which I've absolutely had on the pod before. This is the bitch in the color changing can from Fort George. Not the double IPA, just the regular IPA. And I think this one was canned on 9/30. Yes, it was. Its code name is Crosby Comet. Because the hops are Comet hops from Crosby Hop Farm. The malts are two row barley pilsner, two row barley pilsner, torrefied wheat, flaked oats. The yeast is juice, which is actually like a kind of like a strain of yeast that they use. It's not just juice.
Just pouring a little Orangina in there.
Yep,
Yeah.
just a little. I know.
Means like a backwards
And
mimosa.
it's so funny because it tells me all of that, but it doesn't tell me what the ABV and shit of this is. It's 7.6, so bye. But I only have one of them, so it's fine. Anyway, it's very good as usual from our friends at Fort George in Astoria, Oregon. If you're from here, you say it Astoria. If you're not, you say it Astoria, like a normal person.
It's very stupid.
Okay, that was. Do we have any friendly banter or official pod business? 2 things I stole from a podcast I listened to, but it's very applicable here.
I don't think so.
Cool.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Super.
Star Wars, it's fun.
Star Wars is fun.
Hopefully, by the time we record our next episode, we'll have seen the episode 9 trailer.
True.
When is that coming out?
It's a great question, Miranda.
I'm here for the.
Do you actually know the answer, or do you just know it sometime in the next week?
No, they haven't announced it.
Wait.
There
so how
have
do
been
we
rumors
know
that it was going to come out like every week for the past like 3 weeks. People are guessing it's coming out this coming Monday because it always comes out during Monday Night Football, and we're running out of Monday Night Football.
Correct. Okay, so you're just guessing.
Oh yeah, just guessing.
I see.
It is #rumored to be coming out on Monday.
Hashtag.
But it was also #rumored to be coming out this past Monday, so who the fuck knows?
Air
I will
horns-
say I
air
am
horns
greatly
for rumors.
air horns for rumors. I'm greatly enjoying the fact that it's not out just because everybody's just freaking the fuck out about it. And it is
We're
it
also
is
just
it is hilarious.
Running out of time before the movie comes out, so it's really fine.
Which
Everybody can relax.
yeah, it's gonna come out. We're all gonna watch it. Like
Big if true.
the trailer's gonna be misleading in some way.
But what if
Also
Star Wars
very
disappears forever?
Yeah. I'm just happy to not be in Denmark when it comes out,
True.
because if I was still working for that company, I probably would be in Denmark when it came out, and it wouldn't be coming out at the
That would be
same
sad.
time, and it would be real sad.
Could see it in Danish.
Actually, it's in English, and then they just have Danish subtitles. It's actually really nice. It's not bad seeing movies there at all as an English
nice.
speaker. But usually stuff doesn't come out at the same time would be the bigger issue. And then I would have to throw myself into the ocean to avoid spoilers.
Yeah, this is true.
Anyway, that has been boring non-pod business. We're wrapping up what? Lords of the Sith?
Correct.
That is correct.
Cool. Who wants to talk about all the fucked up shit that happened? That's fucked up shit that we haven't been talking about or that we've touched upon lately. That's why Kate was going to be on here, because she's better
Just to scream. Yeah.
Well, she's better at like ripping white men new assholes than
This is
all
true.
of us are.
That is correct.
She is so good at it. Moors and Belcourt are different.
I was going to say, do we want to start with the ripping of new assholes, or do we want to start with plot things?
Plot things.
Guys,
Okay.
we should not rip any assholes.
Pegging.
I was gonna.
Yep.
It's fine.
Anyway, yeah. So we have and again, I'm just gonna talk a lot this episode.
There was a
Unfortunately,
whole pegging pre-recording, so that's why we're all giggling. In addition
About
to just
pegging.
saying pegging.
yeah.
So it was a callback joke that none of you are privy to. So
Yeah.
enjoy that.
Which really, if that doesn't show what this pod's about, I don't know what does.
That's exactly right.
So yeah, plot things. We totally had an outline 2 minutes before we started recording. That was a thing. We prepared. We're professionals.
Didn't she? Miranda dropped her fidget spinner. It's not a fidget spinner. It's a hair tie. Pick it up.
No, I was going to start talking.
Okay.
I'm going to hurt myself if I try to pick it up.
Okay, I'll pick it up. Talk.
Okay. So basically, one of the things that we really see through the whole book is the juxtaposition of Moors and Belcourt, and how they kind of handle the power that they have, overseeing Ryloth. And we get a little backstory, but Moff Moors, she's kind of vaguely for the Empire. She's just spiced up all the time, and is pretty useless, which is obviously different than Belcourt. And I think he's really interesting here, because he's clearly into the uniformity-ish of the Empire. He fits well in the structure of it, but he's also what if I just do some illegal shit?
Yeah, I would add a third point of contrast here. It's two model Imperials, right? Is the what Chris wrote on the outline, Moors versus Belcourt. I thought it said two. Anyway, I can't read. The point is that neither of them are model Imperials.
But in a way,
they're very. We see them time and again in Star Wars. So it's Moors, who is whatever the fuck, I have power, but I want to fuck off. We've got Belcourt, who has some power but wants more power and doesn't care at what cost that's coming. And then we have the Royal Guard, and they're Empire overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to me, the interesting thing about Moors versus Belcourt is very much as you said, Kristen, we have these two different models, and they're kind of they kind of are archetypes that we've seen in the Empire before. Moors is very much the bureaucrat who's in power, who doesn't actually do anything, and has power but doesn't actually have power. Whereas Belcourt is the climber, who is not even really a believer, because if he was, he wouldn't be working with the Free Ryloth movement, which he is sworn to destroy. And so
/work with forever.
And so it's just interesting because, we see these two kind of people who we kind of see as what the Empire is. Because, we have, when you look at the Empire, you've got your scary people. You've got, obviously, the Emperor and Vader. You've got your Tarkins. But mostly what we've seen from the Empire is just a lot of bureaucrats who are not really qualified for the jobs they're in.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I was about to say, when you said what we see a lot of, I was going to say ineptitude.
Yeah.
Because, after the top three, everybody's kind of useless.
Well, and that, and we've talked about this before, but that, so multiplies after the first Death Star's destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
It's those were supposed to be the best people. And, Fuck.
Yeah, it's like how in Lost Stars, Sienna gets promoted to like commander of her own Star Destroyer at 25 because there's just literally nobody else who's competent.
Everybody literally died.
Yeah. But no, and it's very much that there's just a lot of ineptitude, and that's kind of what we see from the Empire, and it's always kind of been an interesting commentary on totalitarianism and the fact that like you know like quality, with Thrawn being pretty much the single exception, being good at your job doesn't actually get you anything. Instead, you just get an empire full of Krennics.
Yeah, fuck. Krennic is so bad at his job.
We watched Rogue One over the weekend, and I'm just like constantly reminded how bad at his job Krennic is.
And he just like loves his uniform so much, his special boy uniform.
I mean, if I got to wear a cape every day, I would love it too.
It's so true.
Yeah, it just seems dangerous. I would trip on mine.
I mean, that's been made abundantly clear, Miranda.
Yeah, Miranda, you have like a lot. You just said that you didn't want to reach down to get the hair tie that you were playing with because you didn't want to hurt yourself.
Well, like,
It was under the desk.
It would also be very noisy, and you'd yell at me, and then it's like dark under there. And
Oh my god, it's dark under there.
it's just a lot of effort.
It's a desk. It's a
It
desk,
is a
Miranda.
desk. Cool. How do they relate to the First Order later? The First Order, I feel like, is just people at the end of their ropes. So like they show a lot more the folks in the First Order that we see show a lot more devotion to the cause, because in a lot of ways it was like that cause, quote quote, that got them out of whatever fucked up shit they were doing before.
Do you think that Mors and Belcor would join the First Order?
Hard no for me personally.
I think that
I don't
if
think they would have been
try-
accepted.
I was gonna say, I think if they tried to join the First Order, somebody would have murdered them.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that Belcor would have tried though.
I think Belcor would have
Oh, yeah.
tried. I think he would have been. It would have become clear very quickly he did not fit, because yeah, Keeks, you're exactly right that it's the First Order is kind of like the maniacal true believers, and that is neither Mors nor Belcor fits that description. So they're kind of very emblematic of the Empire and the administration of the Empire, where, you know, and we see it even in the troops, where, you know, we have various stories from a certain point of view, and we've like met a couple other stormtroopers in the various books we've read, where like these troopers are kind of just people who signed up because they could, and, you know, they're into it, you know, just because, you know, jingoism and imperialism and whatnot, but like they're not, you know, they're not doing it because they're ready to like fucking brand themselves and like die for the Empire. Like that's not really anyone's goal. Whereas the First Order, that's like very much the point of the brainwashing that they do of the kids they recruit. And by recruit, I mean kidnap.
It's complicated.
Basically the same.
Basically, not what the Jedis do,
I mean,
right?
do you
No, definitely not.
do you not think that Belcor would like treat it as kind of a last chance? Because he's shown that he can be dedicated to something. Even
I
you know,
don't-
it was serving his own self-interest, but like
I don't think he would-
can.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think we were about to say the exact same thing. Like, but sorry, I'm the one that cut you off. But let me make my point real quick, because you know my points are 3 seconds. I think like his dedication to himself, like, does not translate to dedication to a cause like the First Order.
I'm not suggesting that it does, but I think that he can like put on, you know, just kind of an air of like caring about something. Like if he could twist his dedication to serving himself somehow into like, oh, I was doing it for the Empire or some bullshit, like
What were you gonna say, Chris? Sorry.
I was going to say exactly what you were going to say. Well, exactly what you said, rather, which is that I just don't think, I think he would not last very long trying to convince people that his end all be all was the well-being of the First Order.
Yeah.
Because to me, inevitably, that would have come up against his personal rising in the ranks.
Yeah.
And he would have like immediately been like, well, fuck that. And then like people would have been like, you're fake. Now you're murdered.
Yeah,
I was gonna say
not
like,
allowed to do that.
So much of the First Order is seemingly about sniffing out people who like I'm not making this point well, but the people that they kidnap / recruit seem to be folks that take no fucking bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Like they seem to be the people that are like, if you being selfish is gonna in any way fuck this up, and this is the thing that I care about in a cult-like way, I'm going to murder you.
Yeah. And I also just don't think Belcor has the stomach for it.
Oh yeah.
He's old. I didn't realize that.
How old is he?
Because don't they talk about him being old at the end?
Do they?
I think so. Anyway, keep going. I'll look.
But yeah, I just don't, I think he's, and not to use his relative humanity as a negative, but within the Star Wars universe, he's kind of soft. Like,
Oh yeah.
he is not comfortable with actual killing. He's like corrupt because, there's money in it for him, and like, let the Twi'leks get weapons, whatever, what does he care? But like, he kind of balks when it comes to killing Orn Free Taa, and then Cham kind of needs to just constantly be on the phone with him to reassure him that it's going to work to kill Vader and the Emperor and Morse. Like, I don't think he could make it in the cutthroat world that we see in a novel like Phasma, for example, where Hux literally kills his own father because he's mean.
Yeah. I guess the point I'm trying to make is like, I think that Belcor would do anything to stay alive. And like, if that's what he sees is that way, he might at least give it a shot. I don't think he would survive that for all the reasons that you just stated, because he's a soft boy, but I think he's just very interested in not dying.
I agree. I think the only difference between what you and I are saying is that I think he would run. I think he would know that he couldn't do it and he would just run.
Fair.
But other than that, I agree with everything you just said.
Sorry.
You okay over there?
We're rapidly approaching my bedtime.
Of 8:45?
Yep.
I was up early this morning.
Yep. Anyway, how's it going, Chris? Anyway, sorry, I'm trying to like do two.
She's trying
I'm
to see
barely.
if he's old.
I know. What the fuck I'm like. I think that it happened because I made a note of it.
Let me just look up Wikipedia.
Thank you. Do 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 do.
Sorry, I'm just quickly reading to see if it says anything about his age.
Why am I obsessed with this?
Yeah. You know where and when we are. You need to know where and when Belcor is in his lifespan.
Sorry.
At the end.
It is unclear.
Okay.
It is not mentioned on Wikipedia.
Okay.
He's
Well.
at the end of his. Chris was like, you need to know where Belcor is.
At the end, yes,
he's
I
at the
know.
end.
He's at the end. It's true.
It's true.
Okie dokie.
Cool.
We cool on the Imperials?
Sorry for that stupid detour that got us nowhere. Who wants to talk about Ryloth equaling Africa in a bad way?
I do. Because this has
Great.
been something that has like really struck me since the first time I read this book, like many moons ago. And it's also very clear in the Clone Wars as well. So I very much think it was intentional, for better or worse. But Ryloth is, more than any other planet we've seen, Ryloth is colonized. And you see that with their relationship with the Republic, in that they're part of the Republic, but much of the population thinks that's a sham and doesn't want to be part of it. And you kind of have this straw man, Orn Free Taa, who is the senator who never actually goes home. And then obviously their relationship with the Empire, where they're essentially literally a colony in that they don't even like, I think they said that they're not even fully part of the Empire at this point in the timeline. And so they're literally just being used for their resources. And like they even have French accents. Like, come on. This is like it is a barely veiled analogy for Africa, which is not inherently problematic. It just depends on how it's done. And so I'm kind of wondering, with this in mind, and I'm a little sad Kate couldn't join us because I would have loved to hear her thoughts on this as well. But like, how does Ryloth compare to other, quote unquote alien, non-human planets that we've seen in Star Wars? And like, what do y'all think about, like, would the story have been different if this had taken place on a different world?
Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I think we see in this, it's like the whole planet just seems to be very poor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's not a lot going on. There's just these huge, like, bad parts of town like whatever the octagon was, like just a giant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what you'd call that, like
Sex market.
Yeah.
the wrong side of the tracks situation. But even like what we've seen in the Clone Wars, I mean, it's kind of a desolate planet in general when you're in the cities, when they're all the sand and stuff. But like if you look at something, let's say Kashyyyk, or the one that Obi-Wan is on in Revenge of the Sith. What's that called?
Utapau.
Utapau. Yes. Like I feel like those are seen as, they're shown as being much more, quote unquote civilized. I think it was in Lost Stars, or not Lost Stars. Last Shot. Like the medical student who like got kidnapped and was a bad guy later. Like he was from Utapau, and it seemed like there were a lot of really smart folks there, and like it was a big thing. And when we see Ryloth, it's kind of just depicted as like this poor rundown place,
quote unquote primitive.
Like you even have like literally the villages of like people who don't even know what is happening in modern, quote unquote society. Like they don't even know who the Emperor and Darth Vader are.
Mm-hmm. And like they may or may not have like a working comm device.
Exactly.
For like the whole village.
Yeah. So it's just, it's interesting to me. Sorry, go ahead.
It would have like gone differently if it was on Utapau.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, for sure. And we
like
we even
Utapau
saw that a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Utapau, a planet like Mon Cala, like it's, I do feel like it would have been very different because I feel like those populations are given more agency by the creators than, whereas like Ryloth, you have the free Ryloth movement, but the rest of the population just kind of like stuff happens to them.
Yeah, I'm thinking of like Jakku. If Jakku had anything to offer, I think it would have been pretty similar. Because, I mean, even we don't really know what Jakku looked like at this time. But I think it would be, it's like a backwater ass outer rim planet, right? Is it in the outer rim?
It's technically in the Western Reaches.
Sure. Okay.
Liston.
Regardless, I'm thinking of like outer rim backwater planets. And I think
it's pretty much nowhere, as Luke said.
Yeah. I'm thinking that the more kind of nowhere it is, the more similar it would be to what happened on Ryloth.
Yeah, it's interesting because my next question is, would the story have been different if it had taken place on a human world like Lothal, which is also Outer Rim, not quite backwater. Like, it has cities. Like, I don't even remember what the capital city's called. Kate would be mad at me.
Lothal.
Lothal City.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me. But because again, that population is kind of given much more agency in how it responds to Imperial occupation. Like, you know, we have the kind of this underground resistance movement with Ryder Azadi and Joe, the inexplicably named, what is that species called? Bartender. Ithorian, the Ithorian bartender. And like all these people who like are not happy with the Empire being there, and Sulo, and like Ezra's parents being part of the original resistance there. And it's, I don't know. I do feel like this is, I'm not even sure what point I'm trying to make, which is why I kind of wished Kate was here. But like, I feel like the fact that we're on Ryloth and talking about the occupation of Ryloth and never actually get to talk to, like, see through anyone's eyes except Cham and Isfal is like very, I feel like that, you know, coming into how not necessarily to write a trope like this is very, plays into the fact that the population doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And and that the population is backwards, and like they don't have goals of their own because they are just you know, being colonized.
Yep. They don't have this, like their value structure isn't understood or doesn't line up with the one that's being imposed on them.
Yeah,
Because in the end, it's just the Empire, which is largely human, just kind of forcing everything onto these planets and exploiting them for the resources, which is not great.
yeah.
Not great, Bob.
No, not great.
The
Yeah.
capital of Lothal is literally called Capital City, aka Lothal City.
Ooh.
You were
See,
not wrong.
I said wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's Capital City, I think, is how they mostly referred to it in Rebels.
Yeah,
Love to see
Which
it.
is so fucking stupid, but
Star Wars doesn't do place names super well
No.
historically.
names
Names
hard.
in general.
Names are hard.
But yeah, so it's interesting to me because, you know, obviously this book is about the Empire. It's called Lords of the Sith. It's about Vader and Palpatine, but it is also very much about the Imperial occupation, and we never actually get to see the effects of the Imperial population. We just kind of take the word for it that it's bad. And I think the closest we get is Isfal going into the Octagon and trying to rescue, you know, the Twi'lek girls that have been, you know, essentially imprisoned in the sex trade.
Yeah.
And but like that's really all we get. And even that view, we kind of get this view of Isfal as this like kind of savage, like, oh, like even the girl she's saving doesn't want her to do this because, you know, the girl she's saving appreciates that the Imperial was nice to her. Like, it's, I don't know, it's and this
fucked.
is kind of blending the point of like, it's interesting to see Ryloth as colonized Africa as a metaphor, and there's a lot they could have done with that, but I also don't feel like they did, and that is on the author. And that kind of brings us to our next point, which is the point we've been teasing for several episodes, which is, oh, there's a whole lot of yikes in this book.
A pow, pow.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like that's a moment
That's
for
it,
a pow
that's
pow, if anything.
It's a yikes air horn.
Yeah, there's some shitty shit in this book, eh?
Yeah, so like let's start, and you know, a note of prologue on this. We've talked about where books come up short in the past. We talked about it pretty extensively when we read Phasma by Delilah S. Dawson. We talked about it a little bit with the character whose name I can't remember in Master and Apprentice. Oh God, that's gonna bother me now. But the like Gem, the jewel thief,
Yes.
who wasn't Rihara. Pax,
Yes.
that was his name. We talked about it a little bit there. So, you know, we like to call these things out, and we do it not to necessarily shame people, although we're definitely going to shame Paul S. Kemp because there's a lot in here that's bad. But we do it because we want these books to be beyond reproach. Like, we want these books to be better, and we want there to be enough voices in the process of creating these books that these kinds of things don't happen, and that it, like, writing like this doesn't result. And so, you know, we do it because we love it and we want it to be better.
We would
And so
love
that's
to
just
not have to talk about this stuff on the wrap up.
absolutely, like, we don't, I mean, as you can tell, like, from listening to the podcast, we enjoy Star Wars and we don't particularly enjoy complaining about it, but it needs to be complained about because
We also don't enjoy problematic shit.
Yep.
yeah, like, we also don't enjoy, like, I talked to a couple people who just, like, straight up could not finish this book
Yep.
because it's hard. It's
Really fucked up.
particularly, and you know, like, I'm speaking as an able-bodied white male, and it was hard for me to read a lot of the just, like, kind of gross negativity in it.
Yup.
Yeah, so
There was a shit fuckload of fat phobia, and that was bad.
yeah, let's start there. So we have, like, there's two kind of major examples, and that's Orn Free Ta and Moff Moors.
Yep. And you can describe a person or a being in great detail without making them sound gross, even if they are larger or however they would like to describe themselves. It's super easy, and you don't it just the language was so coded around all of that. And that's just like a really, I mean, I wish Kate was here because she would be able to speak to this more. It's just a really, really lazy way to write that.
Because like I feel like even if you like it is a gross character,
Yep.
there are ways to portray that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Orn Free Ta is supposed to be a gross character, just starting with him, because there's a whole lot more wrapped up in the Moff Moors depiction that is even worse. But, like, Orn Free Ta is supposed to be a gross character. You know, he's this kind of collaborator, is a generous term to describe him, but he's basically in Palpatine's, like, been one of the people who just, like, kind of hitched his wagon to Palpatine from the get-go and has not actually cared about his planet since then.
He's a puppet.
Yeah, he is. And you can describe him in plenty of ways that deal with his behavior, that deal with his worldviews. You can do it in plenty of ways that don't start with him entering a room, like, bulging at his robes and having that be the only negative connotation.
Yeah, like it is really lazy. That's Chris comes as usual with the actual textual evidence because my brain is a sieve. But yeah, I mean that's the kind of stuff that I was referring to. Like, it's easy to describe someone who you want to portray negatively as you. There are different ways to portray them that aren't, you know, speaking negatively about things that aren't negative, right? Like, we don't.
Yeah,
it's just
like,
it's really fucking lazy writing is
like,
what it is.
it's lazy writing, and it's really offensive because it's equating bad behavior and bad motivations with body type.
Yep.
And it's this, and you know,
Thank you
and
for
we're gonna get
having
into
good words, Chris. You're making I'm trying to make these points, and I'm just calling it lazy writing. But I
it
is still lazy.
it is.
writing.
It's you're
It
not.
is.
Nothing you said is false. No lies detected. But it's just it's frustrating because there's nothing inherently bad about the way he describes Orn Free Ta, except the way he does. Like, there's nothing wrong with the characteristics of Orn Free Ta, except that he is described to you as, like, essentially and, like, excuse like the offensive language, but like he essentially this fat fuck who doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
And you know, it's the same. We see that those kind of generalizations in plenty of other discrimination. We see it in misogyny, as we're going to talk about. We see it in racism. But you're taking someone's physical characteristic, which is just that. It is a physical characteristic. We know nothing about Twi'lek physiology that says Orin Free-Taa is unhealthy. We know nothing about Twi'lek body types that says that Orin Free-Taa is, you know, has a larger body than the usual, other than we've seen, you know, like Hera and Cham, but that doesn't mean there aren't others that do have larger body types. We've seen nothing about him that tells us he's evil, but we're being given the message that he is evil because he is fat.
Mm-hmm.
And even if he wasn't healthy, that it doesn't have anything to do with his worth, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's absolutely. Thank you. That's absolutely the case.
Just as I was picking up what you were putting down, but just
Mm-hmm.
as a helpful reminder to
Yeah.
everyone.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
the thing too is like you said earlier, Orin Free-Taa is not the only person this really happens to in this book. You know, we get some really similar vibes with Moff Moore's.
Mm-hmm.
Except instead of like, oh, she's evil, it's like, okay, well, here she is, just like spice-addled, incompetent, like, you know, not even bothering to care or even pretend to care about running Ryloth. She's just like hiding away, you know, eating bonbons and smoking space
spice.
crack.
Yep.
Yeah, and like, to me, the word like slovenly is kind of the way she's depicted, and like Belcor like explicitly says that he's disgusted by her.
Yeah.
Which is
Not great.
so offensive on so many levels to say, based on her body type and like her cleanliness, that makes her a bad person, and that makes her worthy of a main character's disgust, even though it's a main character that we're not supposed to like. Obviously Belcor's not the hero of this story. Like,
That's news to me, dude.
yeah, you read this book in a weird way, Kristen. But like, we are getting his point of view. We are supposed to understand how he feels and to a certain extent sympathize with him, because that's, you know, how this works. We're trying to, in our heads, root for Belcor to win in some aspect, because as the Twi'leks win. But like, this is this character that we're supposed to sympathize with to an extent, and he is just straight up disgusted by the appearance and behavior of Moff Moore's, pretty much exclusively because she's fat.
Yeah. And again, I think it just goes back to what we were talking about with Orin Free-Taa, and like, she still might be like the, you know, bad character in this, like the villain. I'm sure she's probably shitty at her job anyway. You know, but like, even if she were, there's a way to describe that. There's a way to talk about not respecting her without tying it to her body type.
Yeah, like, how about you say she's shitty at her job by saying she's shitty at her job?
Easy as
Like,
that.
there's a concept.
And like stopping there, because I feel like they did that, but also then like heaped on with like the fat shaming and like unnecessary added nothing, detracted a lot.
Absolutely. And again, it's a question of who's involved in the process. And, you know, I try not to get outside of Star Wars too much. I do know that Paul S. Kemp has very questionable history around his views of women. I know that he's gotten in trouble for past blog posts where he was like really misogynistic in his own life and in his own views. And that now he's kind of on Twitter as this, you know, pro hashtag resistance, anti-Trump person. And so everybody's like, enemy of my enemy is my friend. And he's, you know, this liberal hero on Twitter sometimes. But he has a history of this kind of behavior, and it's a question of who gets to be a part of this process and who gets the opportunities to Like, who gets opportunities even when they fuck up? And you look at someone like Paul S. Kemp, who has this history of these things, and yet, you know, a reader wasn't in place to who evidently was able to see these issues in the writing and was able to see the misogyny and was able to see the fat phobia. And it's frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Quite.
And I'll fully admit that I'm taking out some of my frustrations with having read this back to back with Black Spire.
Good.
In terms of talking about like kind of the concept of how did this get made. But
yeah, and who
it
gets
is-
second chances and third chances
I'll give you a
Yeah.
hint. It's white men.
and white women.
yeah, it's
Also
white
white women.
people.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's absolutely white men. But it's frustrating, and that's why that's why we call this out, because, you know, particularly in the publishing arm of Lucasfilm, like, these people fucking care. Like, Del Rey, Disney Lucasfilm has easily the most diverse lineup of creators and characters that we are seeing in Star Wars right now, and it is not even a little bit close.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And in many ways, you know, most diverse is not the highest bar when it comes to Star Wars, but they are doing great jobs in many ways. When you look at, you know, we have Resistance Reborn coming out very shortly, in just a couple weeks, that is written by Rebecca Roanhorse, who I believe is the first native author to write for Star Wars, and centers, you know, all the major characters of the sequel trilogy, but specifically Rebecca Roanhorse has talked about how she really enjoyed writing Poe, and who obviously is a character of color. You have DJ Older and Justina Ireland, who are big parts of Project Luminous, which is kind of the big what's happening next. And they've also both wrote fantastic representation in their books and just did an incredible job. Like, the publishing arm is doing a good job. And so we call these things out not as, you know, and this is another thing you did wrong, but just as a, hey, this is something that we noticed, that a lot of readers noticed, that made this book less enjoyable for a lot of people than it could have been.
Yep.
And it could contribute that much more to the Star Wars canon and to the experience of Star Wars fans if these were things that are looked out for next time.
Star Wars is for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
This is also just a great time to bring up, if you're newer to the pod, welcome and we're sorry. But we used to cover the Marvel comics, which in many ways have added a great new layer of things. But the head of Marvel, or what is his title?
He's
Chris?
he's the editor-in-chief
Yeah, the fuckboy in chief
of Marvel Comics specifically.
Of Marvel Comics. Yeah, if you don't know about him, go do a Google. We've already dedicated a lot of time to him and why we no longer cover the comics. And we've taken a strong stance on that if he continues to be in that position, we won't cover the comics. So if you're curious about that, you can ask us about it. We don't need to rehash it again here. But it's something that's worth mentioning. It's it needs to be better.
Yeah. I'm actually, just quick side note, I don't know if you two saw this week, but Kevin Feige, who is, for our listeners who may not recognize the name, is kind of the brain behind the Marvel Cinematic Universe, actually just got appointed Chief Creative Officer of Marvel as a whole, including comics and publishing.
Ooh.
And he is a white man. He has all the blind spots that white men have. But if you look at the recent spate of Marvel movies that have come out, like Captain Marvel, like Thor Ragnarok, like Black Panther, obviously, and look at what is slated to come out, thinking particularly about the Ms. Marvel series for Disney Plus, he has shown more of a commitment than other white men in his role have in the past to diversity and representation and doing it right. And so I'm curious to see if that changes anything with Marvel Comics. It'll be interesting to see.
It would be awesome if it did, because
It would, because I really want to read the comics.
I would
Like,
love to
there's
read the
so
comics.
much goodness happening in the comics right now.
but
We
they
just
ain't
can't, in
getting
good conscience, tell people to give them money.
Yep, they're getting none of my monies.
Exactly. And I also don't want to, in good conscience, tell people to steal them, because
You know.
that's also
Stealing
not
is
good. So
God.
basically, fire Cebulski, fire senior editor for Star Wars lines, Mark Paniccia, and we'll be good.
Please. Anyway, just wanted to bring that up in case we haven't talked about that in a while. So
Yeah.
while we're on a
While we're on a ranting topic. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of fuck everyone, who wants to talk about fridging? Do we touch upon misogyny enough? Misogyny.
Just that Morse's body type and like her quote unquote fatness makes her not just fat but like disgusting is also just such a commentary, like an inadvertent negative commentary on how we view women who don't have, quote unquote conventional attractive body types, like the super skinny model body type.
Yes.
And it's like the fact that she is viewed as disgusting it's coded in and of itself as a slight on her being a woman, because it's that much more offensive to Belcour and by extension to the reader that she is not just fat, but she's a fat woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would also bring, what is the female main character for you, Ryloth person named? Sorry.
Oh, Isval. Yes. I actually,
Isval.
thank you for that reminder, because I did want to talk about her.
So Isval is complicated, right? Because she's coded, or she's described as, coded is the wrong word, sorry, retracted. She's described as like in this negative light because she's not conventionally feminine. Like, she sharpens her teeth, which is like different than typically the men in the culture, the Twilight culture, do that, but she has it. She's chosen to do that. And other little things like that where they talk about her like not smiling, like literally, and stuff like that. And that is just fucking so reductive and so misogynistic. And
Literally, the peak of her character arc is that she smiles.
right. And it's fucked. So yeah, that's super misogynistic and bad.
And also the fact that, thinking about that chapter where she goes to the Octagon and is like talking about how she has this need to murder. Like, both she and Morse are shown essentially as slaves to their vices. Like, Morse is shown as, the implication is that she's a slave and can't stop herself from eating, and she's shown in a spice haze, so she's an addict too, which also, addiction is a disease, not a character flaw. But, like, she's shown as a slave to her vices. Isval is shown as, doing all these horrible things just because she has to let her aggression out. But Cham wouldn't approve. Like, you have Cham and Belcour who are put in the position of moderating the worst impulses of their female counterparts. And it's and that's a way of explicitly saying that the men in these roles are better than the women.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, these are things that we don't want to see in Star Wars, and we hope not to see in Star Wars going forward, because honestly, there's no reason Isval shouldn't be a completely badass character, because she's really something that we haven't really seen, particularly in a female character in Star Wars before. And we talked a little bit in previous episodes about how she's kind of the Saw Gerrera of this story, like kind of the take no prisoners,
Vigilante.
win at any cost.
Yeah.
Vigilante, yeah.
Yeah, and she's somebody who's like very dedicated to this cause, which is, kind of a big point in the book. When they're talking about like, will Free Ryloth go on if Cham dies?
Yeah.
And she's proof that like, yes, this can happen, but also, like you just said, she's shown as being a bit inept and just like bloodthirsty because she can't control herself. Like you said, she's a slave to her vices, which is really misogynistic because like she could totally carry on with Free Ryloth. She's clearly like competent. She might not like have as much foresight as Cham, because like just because he's been doing it for so long, but she's right there at the top. And that description of her is like, no, she can't do this.
Yeah, and the fact
woman
that
sit in the corner, like.
yeah,
Also, I don't have a nuanced point about this, nor am I the correct person to talk about this, but sex work is portrayed in a really problematic way in this book.
oh, absolutely. I mean, and again, to it, there was a way to do that because obviously, if we're sticking with the Ryloth as a colonized planet aspect of it, the sex trade in areas that are colonized obviously is very rarely consensual.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it wasn't done the right way. And you have Isval, who is shown as this bloodthirsty person who also is very clearly incredibly competent, and yet her only connection to actually being leadership of the Free Ryloth movement is that Cham has a crush on her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, and again, it's minimizing her impact as her own person and as a potential leader, because whenever she's talking with Gobi or I can't remember any of the other Twi'lek names, I'm sorry, but like whenever she's talking with anybody else, she's not really shown as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only Cham that seems to think that she is a leader, but then Cham is also like, but I love her, so like that kind of invalidates his view of her.
Mm-hmm.
As invalidates him as an objective observer of her talents.
Right. And I feel like if you kind of take away his view of her, like if we were to get her story without his inner monologue being like, oh, she cute, her whole story kind of has like, she slept her way to the top vibes.
Yes,
It's
it
like
does.
She can't do anything, but like, obviously
It's
like,
very like
she and Cham weren't doing anything, but it's just like there's a reason that she's been so successful, and it's not her. It's her being like the love interest of the main male character.
and that was just so also we don't dive into quality of books that often on this podcast, but that was just such a pointless subplot.
Yeah, it was.
It added absolutely nothing. Like, you know how you make Cham have feelings about her because Cham is a real life being who is a leader and a good leader and is beloved, and so he cares about his people. Like, there was no reason you needed to do that.
None at all. Oy vey. Okay, we're getting heavy on time here.
We are. So let's talk. And Miranda, I specifically, let's let you talk about one last aspect of Moff Moore's that was
Not
interesting
great.
and not great.
Bad.
Yeah. I didn't want to put words in your mouth, but not great. Yeah, and that is the fact that Moff Moore's is thrown in kind of like a side bit of dialogue that Moff Morris is gay and that she was married to a woman.
Yeah. And that woman was super fridged years before the book started, which it touches on the misogyny thing. It touches on the queer thing, but there's a big issue in a lot of literature, movies, etc., traditionally where, the villain has like very queer coded kind of features or characteristics. It's just always been very easy to do it. Like if we want to look at Disney, I think is probably the easiest example. Like the Lion King, Scar's kind of shown as a bit of a foppish kind of lion. The drag queen description, or what's the word I'm looking for? Portrayal?
Sure.
Of Ursula.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been like, queer people are the enemy. And not that it's bad to have, like, I want to see, like, a lesbian enemy who's super badass. That'd be awesome. Or, like, who has some kind of positive features. But, like, as we've discussed, she has no positive features described in this. And, like you said, it's just thrown in. Like, as a side comment. And I can't tell if it's just, like, shooting for diversity points. Like,
I absolutely think it is.
we have a queer character. It's like, great, you wrote her really terribly. You make it look like lesbians are bad.
Feels very homophobic, honestly.
And, like,
It does.
This is great. It's like we could have a whole conversation about queer baiting with it because of how desperate, like, people in the community are to see themselves in some kind of media, and then when it happens, it's just shitty. Like, here's this spice addicted, like, quote unquote disgusting in the view of her peers and like people just she's around all the time. And I was like, why was any of this necessary?
Yeah, it's frustrating because, when obviously we are huge proponents of Star Wars Rep Matters. Kate is a major contributor to Star Wars Rep Matters, and that entire hashtag and movement does phenomenal work. And one of the, I don't even want to say criticisms because that legitimizes it. One of the stupid comments they get from men on Twitter is, I don't mind characters being X, whatever it is. And they always find the most offensive way to say it, but that's beside the point. I don't mind characters being X as long as it's, not just shoehorned in. And the response to that is kind of like, that's not a thing. Like, that's like, yes,
it is in this
you
case.
You want good storytelling to be good storytelling. Thank you for your comment, white man. But like, it's frustrating because when you have a character like Moff Morse, who is, you get one line and two lines really, because there's also the really gross implication that she is sexually assaulting her female Twi'lek servants early in the book, if you look for it.
Yep.
But so that's a whole nother trope of queer characters that we don't need to get into. But when you have it just mentioned twice with no actual relevance to the character, other than in this case to make them, look even worse, like, that is this, like, quote unquote bad representation that, like, doesn't exist. It only exists by, like, people who just have no good intentions of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like, and it's bad storytelling, just like you said. Like, we just called out a hetero couple that we thought was fucking shitty storytelling. Like, it's not it's not bad storytelling because it's gay. It's bad storytelling because it's bad storytelling, right?
Yeah, and it's so exhausting because it like almost legitimizes all, like, these fucking dude bros who complain about, like, well, they're just shoehorning it in, like, because, like, this literally does feel shoehorned in because it doesn't develop anyone's character, and it doesn't actually give you a even remotely rounded character who is queer, and that you can actually, like, look at them and look at their queerness and their overall character and see how it fits in. It's literally just like you wrote a sentence saying she had a wife instead of a husband.
It's checking a box.
Yeah.
And we do get more of her as the book kind of progresses, and, like, there would be ways to fit that in. Like, you could come up with actual backstories that aren't just like, her wife died, now she's addicted to drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, none of that backstory was necessary, just to speak to, like, we didn't get Cham's backstory. Like, we know parts of Cham's backstory because of Star Wars, but, like, we didn't get that in this book.
And we didn't get Belcor's backstory.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't get Belcor's backstory.
Exactly. And we, like, guess what else felt shoehorned in? Cham and Isval liking each other. Like, fuck. Yes, guess what? Shoehorning anything in is bad storytelling.
Yeah.
Like, oy, oy, oy. Well, thank you, Miranda.
Yeah, I would have had more nuanced analysis, but I've done a lot of gay screaming today.
Yep.
So
Thank you.
There's only so much you can do, really.
yeah.
Yep. Not positive gay screaming either.
No, it was not the fun kind.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I had a very kind coworker who let me come into her office and vent for a bit.
That's good.
Yay.
Yay. Anyway, as Kristen said, we're getting a little heavy, so let's run through some listener questions. Nobody responded to us on Twitter, which is partially my fault because I didn't tweet about it until like 3 hours ago, but nobody responded to us on Twitter. But we did get some good questions from the Tashi Station Radio Patreon, which you should all give to because we have fantastic conversations.
And exclusive pet pictures on there.
And exclusive pet pictures. I will also say most of these were kind of shitposty questions, which is good. That is not a bad thing.
It's usually what they are.
the one serious question we had was Andrew _S_Rich, I believe, on Twitter.
Yep.
Asked about Moff Moore's and whether her backstory was even necessary, and so we talked about that a lot just now. So rewind about 20 minutes.
Yay.
If you don't feel like you have an answer to that question. So first, again from Andrew, a lot of these, Andrew was very prolific this week with his questions.
Yeah, he asked actual questions. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah. Orin Free Ta is the Mitch McConnell of the Twi'leks. Agree or disagree?
Disagree.
I don't agree with it because to me, the whole thing about Orin Free Ta is that he's incompetent. Like he's like a sign of the bureaucracy and the nepotism.
Yeah.
Whereas like,
sorry.
no, go ahead.
Mitch McConnell's a piece of shit, but he's good at his job.
Yes.
Yeah, no, like a solid like 30 to 40% of what's wrong with America can be directly traced to Mitch McConnell being really good at his job.
Yeah, he's real good at it, and it's horrible, and I hate it.
Yeah, like he is real good at his job of just destroying everything that anybody could like about the world.
Yeah, and Orin Free Ta is really portrayed as not caring all that much and just kind of going with whatever. Again, not the case here.
Yes,
Yeah.
Good question, though. Thank you for that discussion question.
It did make me laugh a lot when he first asked it.
Yeah.
Yes. Odie McOatface, or no, sorry, of many nicknames on Twitter.
Odie
McOatface in our hearts. Asks for our favorite Palpatine pet name. I'm partial to Palpy myself.
See, when I first read this, I was like, Palpatine pet name, does he mean like the shit that he calls Vader, or does he mean I mean, we all know that I call Palpatine Poopy, so that's my
No, he's got like a little droid cat.
yeah.
Darth Whiskers.
just going full on Bond villain.
Yes,
Darth
Poopy
Whiskers.
is what
Oh
I'm
my
going
God.
with. I'm a child.
No, I'm with Chris. I usually just do a Palpy because it's easy and my autocorrect recognizes it.
In a running race, who would cleat themselves first, Jasper or Miranda? That's from Andrew. The answer is Miranda. Jasper doesn't like trip over anything anymore. He smashes his head into a lot of stuff, but he is a very svelte runner and also knows how to go through like the doggy tunnels and go over jumps and stuff. So absolutely Miranda.
Are you going to train him for agility?
We're absolutely thinking about it. So
Are you actually? That's awesome.
Oh, we're 100% thinking about it. Yeah,
He could use the outlet.
Yes, when if we can get him to listen to us, he loves he already loves jumping, which like puppies are not supposed to do. So a lot of our lives are just trying to get him to not go up on shit and jump off of it, because when we're on walks, that's all he wants to do. So.
Oh, Jasper.
Yeah, I don't know what there's not a ton of like agility right in Portland. We'd probably have to bring him out to like the suburbs, so we'll have to see like what our commitment to that is. But I think he'd be really good at it, just as like he would have fun.
Also,
So.
he doesn't have opposable thumbs to tie up his
It's so
cleats.
true.
So
I was gonna say Jasper does not wear cleats, to my knowledge. So
Famously.
all right, is Ryloth Spice capable of giving you powers like in Dune?
I've never seen Dune.
is that a is that a video game?
It's a book series slash movie slash about to be remade again.
Oh,
What-
yeah. I don't know.
Oh, is that
It's-
Doom? That's
No.
the video game.
Doom,
Yes.
Doom.
Yeah.
Yes,
But isn't Dune a different thing?
Yeah, that's a.
Yes.
I thought they were the
Oh,
same.
okay. No,
no, they're
different.
not. They're very different.
Cool.
I'm gonna go with no because if so, Paul S. Kemp would have given Moff Morse some special powers
Yeah.
that somehow still would have reflected how she's gross.
She she would have been running shit.
Yeah,
Yep.
agree.
And the most important question I think that we received: who would win in a fight, 5s or 6s?
5s.
5s.
By definition, 6s is greater than 5s.
Yeah, but 6 is a fucking no. Wait, that's 7. Never mind. 6 is a fucking scaredy cat.
Oh my god, you're. Yeah, but like 5 is before 6 in rankings.
Also, 5s is first in our hearts.
Absolutely.
5s absolutely win in a battle for our hearts. No question about that.
It is not specified what kind of
What
fight this
what
would
kind
be.
of fight?
Yeah. Agree.
Love it.
Cool. Well, that has been a very heavy episode of the Book Wars pod. Would you like to bring us out, Dad?
I would love to. Thank you for listening to our wrap up of Lords of the Sith by Paul S. Kemp. Next episode, we're going to be starting Queen's Shadow by E.K. Johnston, and we're very excited about it. We are going to be reading the start of the book through chapter 13. And so we hope you'll read along with us and either buy the book or get it from your local library because this book deserves all the love. In the meantime, hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Tumblr at BookWarsPod, bookwarspod@gmail.com if you want to email us, and rate, review, and subscribe to us and the Tashi Station Radio Mega Feed. Rating us and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher is the best way for people to discover the show. So if you enjoy the show, we really do hope that you'll give us a rating and a review. If you have the means and you're so inclined, please donate to the Tashi Station Radio Patreon. It helps us cover our hosting and production costs, and give us coffee at ko-fi.com/bookwarspod. When people give us coffee, we will post more pictures of Porkchop, Orca, and Jasper, the official children of the Book Wars pod, on our Instagram. You don't want to miss it. I'm sure that Orca is going to look adorable next to Queen Shadow, and I'm sure Jasper and Porkchop will too.
Yes. He's so
our theme
cute.
song-
He looks like a little raccoon.
He is the littlest raccoon, and it's really good.
And
Our theme
Jasper's now
song-
like 4 pounds heavier than him. Like a fish. He's so
Oh
big.
no, Jasper's like 14 pounds heavier than him.
What?
How big is
How
Orca?
big is Orca?
Orca's like 8.5 pounds.
Oh my
Oh.
god. Oh yeah, Jasper's like 20 pounds now.
Yeah, Jasper's a big boy.
Jesus.
Our theme song is Whiz Bang by Poddington Bear. Our logo and artwork are by Joe Butera Design. For Kristen and Miranda and Kate in absentia, I'm Chris. Thank you so much for listening to the Book Wars pod, and we'll talk to you next week.
A pow pow.
It's like
I like how that's just become your sign off at this point.
that's just like our
Kristen.
official outro.
It really is.
It's the outro postscript.
Yep.